This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Hunter Biden's lawyers rested their case Monday in the federal criminal trial of the president's son. I'm Julie Walker.
The United Nations backs a ceasefire deal that the U.S. and Israel say Hamas must accept to end the fighting. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A pre-sentencing interview for a former president.
Now we are, as you know, a declining nation.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Abortions on the ballot in Wisconsin in an election for the Badger State Supreme Court.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a winning day, but Apple failed to wow investors with AI. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Felony convictions could put Donald Trump's golf courses at jeopardy of closure. And after nearly 3 months, a vital East Coast shipping channel is open again, all ahead on America in the Morning. Jurors in Wilmington, Delaware were handed the case against Hunter Biden as the prosecution and defense both finished their closing arguments. Correspondent Julie Walker reports jury deliberations in the case involving filing false statements and filling out paperwork to purchase a handgun will continue today in the first ever federal trial of the son of a sitting U.S. president.
A prosecutor told jurors Monday that no one is above the law as he urged them to convict President Biden's son Hunter on charges he lied about his drug use when he bought a gun in 2018. In his closing argument, prosecutor Leo Wise told jurors to focus on the overwhelming evidence against Hunter Biden. First Lady Jill Biden was seated in the front row of the courtroom with other family members.
The fact that the First Lady has been traveling back and forth between Wilmington, Delaware, and France highlights how important family is to the Bidens overall and how important it is to the First Lady that she take time out of her schedule to be in court to support her son and also to be there as a representative of President Joe Biden, who cannot be in the courtroom because that would present a clear conflict of interest.
The defense rested without calling Hunter Biden to the witness stand. Defendants are not required to testify and often advised not to because it opens them up to grilling by prosecutors on cross-exam. He's pleaded not guilty and accused the Justice Department of bending to political pressure from former President Trump and other Republicans to bring the gun case and separate tax charges after a deal with prosecutors fell apart last year. Defense attorney Abby Lowell told jurors the prosecution did not meet its burden of proving its case beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense has suggested that at the time he bought the gun, Hunter Biden did not consider himself an addict. I'm Julie Walker.
A U.S.-backed deal receives overwhelming support of the United Nations Security Council, putting the ball in the court of Hamas to stop the fighting in Gaza. John Stolnis with details from Washington.
The text of the ceasefire was first proposed by President Biden on May 31st, and it has already been accepted by Israel. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, challenges Hamas leaders to end the bloodshed.
Colleagues, today this council sent a clear message to Hamas. Accept the ceasefire deal on the table. Israel has already agreed to this deal, and the fighting could stop today if Hamas would do the same. I repeat, the fighting could stop today.
Just one nation, Russia, abstained from the vote, saying it's unclear what the official agreement is from Israel. No one voted against. Rayut Shapir Ben Naftali, Minister Counselor, Permanent Mission to the United Nations for Israel, says Israel's goals remain the same.
The loss of life in Gaza is a tragedy. But if you don't put the blame on Hamas, you're advancing their strategy. Colleagues, Israel stands firm on our principles, and they have not changed. We will continue until all of the hostages are returned and until Hamas military and governing capabilities are dismantled. These have been our goals from day one. Just as President Biden stated on May 31st, Hamas must not stay in power.
The U.S.-backed draft has 3 phases that would ultimately end the fighting, see all hostages returned, see Israel withdraw its forces from Gaza, and develop a multi-year reconstruction plan for the territory. Speaking in Cairo after his visit with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged Hamas to meet the moment.
So the only party that has not accepted, the only party that's not said yes, is Hamas. That's who everyone's waiting on.
The vote comes on the same day the Israeli military released video footage of the raid in central Gaza over the weekend that rescued 3 of the 4 hostages. Body cam video shows Israeli troops storming a residence and finding the hostages huddled in a corner, looking scared but unharmed, and then taken from the building under heavy gunfire. The IDF maintains the home belonged to Abdallah al-Jamal, an Al Jazeera journalist who they say was working with Hamas. The IDF says he, his wife, and his father were killed in the raid. John Stolnis, Washington.
Trump meets with probation officer. We'll have that and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning, a check of the nation's forecast today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with the Tuesday report.
There will once again be a risk for some gusty thunderstorms through portions of Texas into western Oklahoma, a few of which could produce damaging winds, downpours, and large hail. There will also be some scattered afternoon thunderstorms developing in parts of eastern New Mexico into southeast Colorado, as well as eastward into Louisiana. Meanwhile, an area of low pressure and associated cold front will move through the northern plains into the western Great Lakes, producing some showers and a thunderstorm or two through eastern Nebraska into Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. For most of the Great Lakes into the Tennessee Valley and southeast, we are looking at dry weather with clouds and sun and highs mostly in the 70s, 80s, and low 90s. The main concern across the nation in the coming days will be in Florida. Starting today, we have a feature moving northward through the Caribbean into the Gulf, which will help produce some heavy showers and thunderstorms through a good portion of southern Florida. These areas have been dry recently, and some of the rain will be welcome. Persistent rainfall today, tonight, and through the rest of the week could cause significant flooding problems. Some places could see more than a foot of rain by the end of the week into the weekend. The rest of the nation will be largely quiet with just a few scattered showers across the northeast, where a storm over southern Canada will provide a cooler day and highs in the 60s and 70s. Scattered showers and thunderstorms along the coast through Virginia into the Carolinas. Another area of showers will arrive in the northwest with a storm moving onshore just to the north. And then the rest of the west will be largely dry with plenty of sunshine. High temperatures away from the coastal regions will once again reach well above the historical average with 80s and 90s in Washington, Idaho, and Oregon, and then warming quickly into the 100s farther to the south. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Former President Donald Trump reportedly met with a probation officer as he awaits sentencing in his New York hush money trial. Correspondent Clayton Neville is following the story.
Former President Trump is awaiting a July 11th sentencing date after being convicted by a New York City jury on 34 felony counts connected to falsified business records surrounding alleged hush money payments that Trump made to porn star Stormy Daniels. The former president is said to have met virtually yesterday from his Mar-a-Lago resort with a probation officer in New York. Typically, the pre-sentencing interview happens in person, but Judge Juan Merchan gave Trump permission to attend remotely and to have his lawyer present. This on the same day that Trump appeared in a pre-taped video message to the Life and Liberty Forum, hosted by the Danbury Institute.
We have to defend religious liberty, free speech, innocent life, and the heritage and tradition that built America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. But now we are, as you know, a declining nation.
While the convictions against Trump are the first against a former president, so is a probation officer for a former commander-in-chief. Yesterday's meeting will lead to a report by the officer and served as a chance for Trump to potentially get a recommendation for a lighter punishment, possibly probation or house arrest. I'm Clayton Neville.
Wisconsin's Supreme Court is once again in the spotlight in a battleground state that just placed abortion on the ballot. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
A judge who had one time represented Planned Parenthood in an abortion access case has entered the race for a seat on Wisconsin's state Supreme Court. Dane County Circuit Judge Susan Crawford launched her campaign. Conservative Waukesha County Circuit Judge Brad Schimmel began his campaign 6 months ago. Crawford and Schimmel are the only announced candidates so far running to succeed a liberal Justice Ann Walsh Bradley, who announced in April she will retire. Bradley says it's time to pass the torch after serving on the court since 1995. Schimmel is a Trump Republican, a former state attorney general who opposes abortion. The court was flipped from conservative control for the first time in 15 years last April with the election of Janet Protasewicz. The election coming up next April puts the court's 4-3 liberal majority back on the line. The court has made several key rulings, including a December decision that overturned Republican-drawn maps of the state's legislative districts. I'm Jennifer King.
When we return on America in the Morning, counterfeit U.S. diabetes products ordered off the market after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a winning day, but Apple failed to wow investors with AI. Wall Street opens this morning after some modest gains for the major averages.
Another day with just completely indecisive action, really split on the breadth side, but we're hanging around the highs, doing enough to stay in the game, at least at the index level.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Apple shares slipped yesterday and announced a number of ways it's using AI in its products. Although it's hardware gating, meaning users are going to have to buy newer devices to access that technology.
They're hardware gating this, which means you have to have the latest and greatest hardware in order to even use all those features that they're talking about. If I want to use all these AI features, I got to go either right now go out there and buy a 15 Pro or wait until September for the 16 and buy that.
CNBC's Steve Kovac. CrowdStrike shares hit a record yesterday on the cybersecurity company's inclusion in the S&P 500 index. It joins next Monday, replacing Comerica. More fake stuff on Amazon this time. U.S. diabetes patients are the victims, buying copies of products made by biotech giant Roche.
A fake AccuCheck box. The name and the product name is misspelled. The devices include blood glucose test strips and lancets. This fake, meanwhile, has a made-up serial number on the box. The complaint doesn't say how long these products had been sold on Amazon, but a judge last month did order those sales to be halted and stopped in the U.S. Roche declined to comment, as well as the defendants, which are 4 Indian companies and their 4 executives. An Amazon spokesperson telling CNBC it has, quote, zero tolerance for counterfeit products.
CNBC's Kate Rooney. Eli Lilly's new Alzheimer's drug poised to move forward.
The FDA advisors are voting unanimously that Eli Lilly's Alzheimer's drug, that the benefits outweigh the risks. Remember, that drug slowed the progression of the disease by 29% in a phase 3 trial, but it did come with the risk of side effects, and those side effects can be deadly. But the advisors today saying that they feel like the benefits outweigh those risks.
CNBC's Angelica Peoples. Red Lobster may have filed for bankruptcy protection, but it's still brought back Crab Fest for the summer.
You mentioned you have the first for an outlet mall?
Yeah, consumers usually expect discounts at factory outlet malls. That's what it means to shoppers. But Tanger is changing that rule of thumb.
The Sephora news is really interesting because LVMH owns Sephora in an outlet mall. How did that happen? Is this the first time?
So this will be the first Sephora in an outlet environment. But the Sephora business will be a full-price business in our outlets.
Tanger Outlet CEO Stephen Yalof with CNBC's Sarah Eisen. On today's watch list, the Fed starts a 2-day meeting on interest rates. Earnings are coming from Oracle, and Boeing reports its May orders and deliveries.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, felony convictions, liquor licenses at risk. After these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The felony convictions now hanging over former President Trump could cost him money. And Lisa Dwyer reports due to the laws of the state of New Jersey, the liquor licenses at some of his golf courses could be taken away.
New Jersey's Attorney General's office is looking into whether Donald Trump's recent felony convictions in New York make him ineligible to hold liquor licenses at his 3 New Jersey golf courses. The office says it is reviewing whether Trump's conviction involving payment of hush money to a porn star and falsifying business records in an attempt to hide it should impact the former president's continued ability to hold liquor licenses. New Jersey state law prohibits anyone from holding a liquor license if they've been convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude, which denotes a serious crime from the viewpoint of society in general and usually contains elements of dishonesty, fraud, or depravity. Trump owns golf courses in Bedminster, Colts Neck, and Pine Hill in New Jersey, each of which has an active liquor license. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
After nearly 2.5 months since the Francis Scott Key Bridge was brought crashing down when it was struck by a cargo vessel, killing 6 bridge construction workers, authorities have now fully reopened a key shipping channel into the Port of Baltimore. The Army Corps of Engineers restored the original 700-foot wide, 50-foot deep waterway that was blocked by tons of steel and concrete decking. Maryland Governor Wes Moore credited a federal partnership arranged by the Biden administration for getting the waterway reopened, an 11-week blockage that cost the city of Baltimore more than $1 billion in shipping revenue. America in the Morning for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
A U.S. Supreme Court justice and his wife at the center of a secret audio recording. I'm Clayton Neville.
Heavyweight debate in Montana, and a Massachusetts town running out of marijuana leads to a lawsuit.
A suspect has been arrested in connection with a shooting and a massive fire at a 4-story Miami apartment building. I'm Sue Aller.
A software malfunction is forcing a Chrysler recall. I'm Mike Hempen.
George Lopez has struck a sour note with fans after leaving his comedy show halfway through. I'm Kevin Carr.
Important shellfish warning, and orangutan heal thyself. Back after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. We are into June, and that means hurricane season. With an update, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
As we continue to move along in the hurricane season, we will continue to see conditions for which development becomes more likely. Part of that observation is the amount of available moisture in the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean. This moisture will move northward along a feature which will produce heavy showers and thunderstorms through a good portion of southern Florida. These areas have been dry recently, and as such, some of the rain will be welcome, but will probably be too much of a good thing, as persistent rainfall today, tonight, and through the rest of the week could cause significant flooding problems. Some of these areas could see more than a foot of rainfall. Farther west, there'll be once again a risk for some gusty thunderstorms through portions of Texas into western Oklahoma. A few of these storms will produce damaging winds, downpours, and large hail. In between, for most of the rest of the southeast into the Tennessee Valley, we're looking at dry weather with clouds and sun, and highs mostly in the 80s and low 90s. Meanwhile, an area of low pressure and associated cold front moving through the northern plains into the Great Lakes will produce some showers and a thunderstorm or two through eastern Nebraska into Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And the rest of the nation will be largely quiet with just a few scattered showers over the northeast from a storm centered in southern Canada. That will provide a cooler day with highs in the 60s and 70s. There could also be a scattered shower or thunderstorm farther south along the coast through Virginia into the Carolinas. There's another area of showers that will arrive in the northwest with a storm moving onshore just to the north. That's the weather across America. Fort Myers, Florida will be cloudy with heavy showers and thunderstorms today. Some flooding is possible with a high of 81. Minneapolis, Minnesota will be mostly cloudy with a few showers and an afternoon thunderstorm with a high near 80. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. A secret audio recording is prompting criticism of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, with one Democrat senator saying his answers raise questions regarding impartiality. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The audio posted by Lauren Windsor on Undercurrent captured Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito telling a woman claiming to be a right-wing conservative Catholic that there are fundamental differences between the left and the right that can't be compromised.
I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of winning.
I think you're probably right. On one side or the other is going to win.
One side or the other is going to win, Justice Alito is heard saying in the audio. He also agreed that the country needs to return to godliness.
I think that the solution really is winning the moral argument. People in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you.
Alito's wife, Martha Ann Alito, has recently been at the center of a controversy over two flags seen flying at their residences that have been associated with right-wing movements and questioning results of the 2020 election. She was heard on the audio released by Windsor, seemingly criticizing the gay pride flag.
I want a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag because I have to look across the lagoon at the pride flag for the next month.
Exactly.
And he's like, oh, please don't put up a flag. I said, I won't do it because I'm deferring to you. But when you are free of this nonsense, I'm putting it up and I'm going to send them a message every day. Maybe every week I'll be changing the flags.
While some political experts say that Justice Alito's views are no secret, critics argue Americans expect judges to maintain an impartiality, including on issues of faith and morality. I'm Clayton Neville.
A Senate race in Montana is considered one of the most watched in the nation because it could tip the balance of power on Capitol Hill. The two candidates for that hotly contested Senate seat debated for the first time. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
If you're going to ramp up against China, you have to have the resources to do that. That's what that bill was for. Thank God it passed. That's why I voted for it.
You know, we've told 3 generations of young men if they grow up to work with their hands, they're a failure. Instead, they should go to college and get a degree in gender studies. We don't have enough diesel mechanics, welders, pipe fitters, electricians, carpenters. The skills that built our economy, we don't have enough of them anymore.
Montana Senator Jon Tester is considered one of the most vulnerable Democrats in the nation. Sunday's debate with Republican Tim Sheehy was sponsored by the Montana Broadcasters Association and the Greater Montana Foundation. Sheehy says he's against abortion with exceptions.
I'll always protect the 3 rights for women: rape, incest, life, and the mother.
Tester says it should be up to the mother.
If you want the woman to make the decision, vote for me.
The candidates clashed on immigration.
This was an intentional border crisis, and now they're trying to fool us to say we're going to solve it before we get there. And time again, Joe Biden and Senate Democrats, including Jon Tester, have had the opportunity to shut down that border, pass legislation to do so. Instead, we've had messaging bills that are nothing but political theater that have continued this terrible border crisis. It's time to shut it down.
That bill went nowhere. Why? Because, quite frankly, people were told not to vote for it because they wanted to keep it a political issue in this country. It's one of the reasons my opponent said he wouldn't vote for the bill if he was in the Senate before the bill was even released to read. Truth is, I was sent to Washington, D.C. to solve problems. There was a solution. Congress failed.
Tester declared Sheehy part of the problem, blaming wealthy newcomers for a housing shortage and rising taxes in the western state. Sheehy blamed Democrats for inflation and embraced his status as an outsider. He came to the state in 2014 and amassed a fortune in aerospace technology and aerial firefighting. Groups targeting control of the U.S. Senate have poured tens of millions of dollars in support to both candidates. I'm Jennifer King.
You've heard of supply chain shortages, a shortage of toilet paper during the pandemic, and at one time even baby formula in short supply. But as correspondent Julie Walker tells us, in the Massachusetts haven of Martha's Vineyard, what you now cannot find is the availability of marijuana, a pot problem that's led to a lawsuit.
The island of Martha's Vineyard has 2 pot dispensaries. One is out of product, the other about to be. That's because the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission says transporting pot across the ocean, whether by boat or plane, risks running afoul of federal laws. So dispensary owner Jeff Rose is suing.
I am out of product. I've been closed now, for almost 3 weeks. I'm on the verge of going out of business. And while I acknowledge the efforts of the commission to address the issue, I really felt that the only way to get some immediate relief was to file a lawsuit.
The commission says it's trying to come up with a solution. In California, the law allows cannabis to be transported to stores on Catalina Island, and Hawaii amended a law to allow transporting medical marijuana between islands.
It's a sad day here in Martha's Vineyard that we can't buy our medical marijuana because of regulations and the political background going behind this. I need this to help with the pain that I suffer through on a daily basis.
I'm Julie Walker.
When we return on America in the Morning, Apple to install ChatGTP. That in your tech report and much more ahead after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. One man is in custody after Miami firefighters battled one of the biggest fires in the city's history. As correspondent Sue Aller reports, the fire may have been set to cover up a shooting.
It's been 25 years since firefighters had to battle a 3-alarm fire in Miami, Florida. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez says a massive blaze broke out about 8:15 Monday morning in the Temple Court apartments. Many of the residents are elderly and had to be rescued from their balconies. He also says that firefighters were shocked as to what they found inside.
We arrived on the scene. We found that one person had been shot. That person has been transported to JMH Hospital.
The mayor also said that management from the building company confirms that the man who was shot is 30-year-old Feder Biate, an employee of the building, and is in critical condition. Authorities also say over 40 people had to be rescued. One resident and 3 firefighters went to the hospital for smoke inhalation. The mayor has also confirmed that a suspect has been arrested for the shooting and for intentionally setting the fire. He also said that he has spoken to many of the now displaced residents.
They seem in relatively good spirits, given the fact that obviously they're in a situation that is incredibly difficult for them and for their families.
The American Red Cross and the Miami Police have also been helping the residents. I'm Sue Aller.
Following a massive recall the previous day from Kia, now carmaker Chrysler is recalling more than 211,000 SUVs and pickup trucks in the U.S. Correspondent Mike Hempen tells us why.
The recall covers certain model year 2022 Dodge Durango, Ram 2500, and Ram 3500 vehicles. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says they may experience a malfunction in their anti-lock braking control module. That could result in a failure in stability control and increase the risk of a crash. Chrysler is unaware of any related injuries or accidents. Dealers will update the anti-lock braking control module software for free. I'm Mike Hempen.
A wealthy California woman who co-founded a burn center foundation in the Los Angeles area will spend the next 15 years behind bars, sentenced to prison for the hit-and-run killings of 2 children walking in a crosswalk nearly 3 years ago. Police reported that 60-year-old Rebecca Grossman was speeding when she struck and killed 2 boys, ages 11 and 8, who were crossing a street. A jury found Grossman guilty of second-degree murder and vehicular manslaughter. She claimed during her sentencing that she never saw anyone when the boys were struck. Police estimate she was traveling at 81 miles per hour on the residential street where the incident occurred. A famous civil rights activist who advised and worked closely with the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. has passed away. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Lawson preached nonviolent protest to withstand brutal reactions from white authorities during the civil rights movement. He was a close advisor to Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. In 1994, Lawson said King would have wanted his killer, James Earl Ray, released.
If Dr. King were alive, he would be appalled that a person could be in prison for 26 years, having actually had no trial.
In 2021, Reverend Lawson said the civil rights movement was the first great awakening to resistance to the racist systems.
And I maintain that Black Lives Matter is the heir of that campaign.
Lawson remained active into his 90s, urging younger generations to leverage their power. I'm Ed Donahue.
Apple announces at their Worldwide Developers Conference that future releases of iOS and Siri will come with ChatGPT installed automatically. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
Apple announced their new integration with ChatGPT for iPhones at their Worldwide Developers Conference yesterday. It looks like Siri will also feature ChatGPT's expertise, but will ask permission before querying OpenAI services. Apple exec Craig Federighi said that we want you to be able to use these external models without having to jump between different tools. Apple has been battling Microsoft to bring AI to the market for their handhelds, but with the limited partnership with OpenAI, it's mostly seen as an interim step before Apple develops its own AI features. Apple also stated that ChatGPT integration would be available later this year and that the chatbot could be accessed for free and would not log users' information. Elon Musk stated on X right after the event that if Apple integrates OpenAI at the OS level, then Apple devices will be banned at my companies. That is an unacceptable security violation. Apple shot back, saying they built AI with privacy at the core. Comment at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman Sports is sponsored by Untuck It. Get your Father's Day gifts at our 80-plus stores or untuckit.com. Untuck It shirts, designed to be worn untucked. Robert?
Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, the Panthers plastered the Oilers 4-1 for a 2-0 series lead. Edmonton scored on its first shot of the game midway through period 1, but struggled to get other chances, taking only 7 shots on goal through the first 2 periods. That's the fewest in a playoff game since the NHL began keeping track in 1960. Florida got even midway through the second, then Evan Rodriguez scored twice in the third to put the Panthers ahead to stay. The scene shifts north for Game 3 in Edmonton on Thursday night. The Celtics have a 2-0 lead on the Mavericks in the NBA Finals with Game 3 tomorrow night in Dallas. Dan Hurley is staying at Connecticut. The coach of the 2-time defending national collegiate champions turned down a reported 6-year, $70 million offer to coach the Lakers. Baseball, the Yankees got by the Royals 4-2. Carlos Rodon won his 7th straight decision. Juan Soto back in the New York lineup after missing the weekend series against the Dodgers with an inflamed left forearm.
I did all my treatment earlier today, and then I went to the cages, making sure everything went fine, and it did.
The Yanks are now back on top of the standings with the major's best record at 47-21. Right on their tail, the Orioles, 5-2 winners over the Rays for a 4-game sweep. Gunnar Henderson hit his 21st homer, only Aaron Judge has more, and it came on the game's first pitch. That's his 7th leadoff dinger this season. Brewers clamped down on the Blue Jays. Twins shut out the Rockies. Chris Paddock and his stablemates with a 6-hitter. The Mariners were down 4-0 to the White Sox, scored 4 times in the bottom of the 8th to get even, then got a walk-off grand slam from Cal Raleigh in the 9th. Giants got 3 unearned runs in the 10th to edge the Astros, and the Padres pounded the A's. The 8-team College World Series field is all set. 4 teams from the SEC and 4 from the ACC. Double elimination play begins on Friday. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, Comedy Club, where nobody's laughing after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. A comedy club and a famous comedian are blaming each other for hecklers. Kevin Carr has details.
Comedian George Lopez has come under fire for leaving a stand-up show early due to audience behavior. The incident happened at the Eagle Mountain Casino in Porterville, California on Friday night. About 20 minutes into his set, several audience members began shouting at him, heard in this video clip obtained by TMZ.
People can go to the doctor and write a prescription.
Get a prescription.
Lopez began counting down strikes and attempting to continue his routine.
That's 1. Then go to the doctor and write your prescription. That's 2. I'm the one working.
When the 63-year-old comedian reached the 3rd strike, he left the stage. On Saturday, Lopez said in a statement that the crowd was, quote, overserved and unruly, and he called the environment unsafe. However, the Eagle Mountain Casino posted on their Facebook page that Lopez was at fault and had his own private security team that could have dealt with any hecklers. Multiple audience members took to social media in frustration, some saying the hecklers were actually fans shouting positive things at him like, "Can I buy you a drink?" On Monday, TMZ reported a representative for the Eagle Mountain Casino said, quote, "We do not consider unruly behavior and an unsafe environment to be compliments shouted at George." I'm Kevin Carr.
There's a new warning about shellfish from the Pacific Northwest. Lisa Dwyer has details.
The Food and Drug Administration is saying that consumers should avoid shellfish from Oregon and Washington state. They may be contaminated by toxins that cause paralytic shellfish poisoning, or PSP, a naturally occurring toxin produced by algae. Elevated levels of toxins were first detected in shellfish along Oregon's coast on May 17th. Since then, at least 31 people in Oregon have been sickened. Symptoms range from a numbing sensation to full respiratory paralysis. The Pacific Northwest shellfish industry employs more than 3,000 people and generates more than $270 million a year. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Maybe apes make the best doctors. An orangutan appears to have used a medicinal plant to treat its own wound. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
Researchers in Indonesia have observed an orangutan who had a raw, ugly wound on his right cheek apparently treat it successfully using leaves from a medicinal plant, one used by people throughout Southeast Asia to treat pain and inflammation. The scientists believe the adult male, named Racus, may have sustained the wound in a fight with another animal. In the journal Scientific Reports, they report observing him pluck and chew the plant's leaves, use his fingers to apply the juices to the injury, then press the remainder to cover the open wound like a makeshift bandage. Photos show it healed within a month without problems. Previous research has documented several species of great apes foraging for medicines, but scientists hadn't yet seen an animal treat itself this way. I'm Ben Thomas.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.